All right. So obviously, welcome everybody to what we're doing here with our Performance Academy. For everybody that may not know who I am, my name is Josh Nelson. Everybody in athletics here at Penn State calls me Nelly. I run our performance science department, and more than anything, I'm tasked with trying to bring a lot of different people together. So different people across campus, our different sports, companies that we use to monitor and to track what we do on a day-to-day basis. But that's kind of me in a nutshell. One of the main things that we do too is we drive a ton of education. So obviously we use technology, we use information to help us make decisions, but we want to try to make that very actionable down to the coaching level and to the athlete level. So that's what you see here. Performance Academy it also has a twin for coaches. We call that Performance School. It's set up very, very similar to this. It is very much an informal community of people that we kind of just share and talk and more than anything, try to troubleshoot different things. It is very much inclusive of everybody. So for example, this right here was sent out to all of our student athletes, all of our staff to kind of to start this. So in the future, if you want to invite somebody, please feel free to do so. So we also talk about current events. So right now, this is a current event. It's a brand new piece that we're bringing to the table, and it's something that we're going to have recurring every 2 weeks. So every other Wednesday night at 7:30, it's just a platform to hop on. We're going to talk about all things health, all things performance that may impact us as athletes. Some people that we have coming on, obviously we have Alec from Whoop today. We have different recovery specialists come on. Here in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking about sleep, even going down a little bit more granular with some of our technology that we use across some of our teams. We'll do that as well. Tonight, and I'll get into this just a second, we have Alec from Whoop Unite. You know, we're very, very fortunate here at Penn State. All of our student athletes, all of our performance staff and coaches also are very fortunate to have our Whoop system. And as we continue to build this and as we continue to grow, we'll learn more and more, and it's just going to continue to help us. So the basic structure of every single night on Performance Academy, it's going to be 30 minutes max, unless a conversation takes us offline after, but it'll be informal, 30 minutes, short and sweet to the point. The first couple minutes we'll open. We'll talk about current events. We'll talk about important topics that we can share within performance and health. Then what we'll do is have a speaker. The speaker or presenter or activity, if you will last about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of time for discussion. And then more than anything, what we want to do is to just connect people. At Penn State, we have 31 sports, 31 wonderful sports of different directions. We have all these different stakeholders across our campus too. So finding ways to connect people from different sports, from different departments is really, really powerful. So go to my next slide here. When we think about why we're taking this community approach, community is power, and it follows what's called a community of practice. So all of us, this model here was set up for like educators, but you can find this in business. You can find this across companies that bring people together. You can find this across teams that we're all very familiar with. But basically what a community does is it allows us to have a sense of purpose, a shared mission, even a set of language, terminology that we can all use. The more that community grows, the stronger we become. So all of our sports working together, it already exists with organizations like Saab, with our individual sports teams. But if we can all get together and talk about health and performance over time, it's really going to help us. So big time current events, obviously pushing health this time of year. The weather is still, in the middle of winter. So anything that we can do to take multivitamins, our dietitian staff has a ton of the power packs all around. Hydration is huge, and just simply washing our hands. Midterms, even spring break is on the horizon. So anything that we can do to plan ahead and be intentional with what we do around that time is really going to be helpful for us. And then here, the last bullet I have is just find low-hanging fruit for performance. It's kind of like what we're going to talk about tonight with Whoop, but things like sleep, things like washing our hands, carrying a water bottle with you everywhere you go. that's low hanging fruit that can be a really big power player for you performance gains later on. So without further ado, I'll pass it to Alec. Alec, thank you so much for joining us tonight. A little bit about Alec. We have known Alec since, I guess, the summer when we started having some of these conversations. He and his group had conversations with Pat Kraft, our athletic director here, and we were really fortunate to have a really widespread rollout of Whoop. And it's really, really been powerful. So we're one semester in. We just recently did a little impact report with Alec and his team as far as how we did over the past semester. And I'll let Alec kind of get into that. So what I'll do, Alec, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You should be able to share yours, and you got the floor. And I will say too, if anybody has questions, just unmute and ask at any time. It is very informal. So Alec, thanks, man.
Appreciate it, Nelly. What's going on, team? Super excited to be the first speaker of the Performance Academy here. I wanted to double down on what Nelly was mentioning related to low-hanging fruit. So I think that's kind of the direction that we want to go with today's meet is let's focus on Whoop as one of those low-hanging fruit pieces. And like Nelly mentioned last week during our impact meeting, we were talking about, I think, about 3 to 4 low-hanging fruits related to the Whoop system that I think we can really focus on just to give us that little bit of a winning edge. So that's what we're going to focus on today in our presentation. I do want to double down on what Nelly said too. Let's make this a comfortable meet. Let's make it informal. Let's ask questions. We're lucky to have a smaller group here today, so don't be shy. If you want to come up mute, ask a question, go for it. If you want to fire a question in the chat as well, Nelly's going to be monitoring that, and we'll make sure that everything gets addressed on the fly, so this is as productive as possible. So let me fire up the screen share here, and we will get underway. All right, team, can I get some thumbs up if you can see my screen up on your end? Perfect. So a little bit of a background about me. Nelly gave his background, so I feel compelled to. I've been working with Penn State, obviously, since August when we did the initial rollout. I've been working in performance tech for about 6 years now, and my background's in biomechanical engineering. So love this stuff, live for it. Really excited to be presenting to everyone here today. And just to give a little bit of a quick outline of what we can expect to talk about here today. So we caught up with Nelly and a few other PSU team members, and we want to tackle those low-hanging fruit pieces like I was mentioning. So number one, how can we leverage Whoop to just drive positive behavior change and relate that to hydration and fueling, which is something Nelly that just brought up on the previous slides. Talk a little bit about sleep habits, how we can use the Whoop journal to actually tackle some sleep difficulties that we might be experiencing. Maybe we have difficulties falling asleep at night, getting out of bed in the morning, or feeling sleepy throughout the day. So leveraging the Whoop journal is going to be really key. Talk about sleep sufficiency. And in my opinion, what I believe to be the most critical sleep metric to keep an eye on in the app is sleep debt. So where can we access that in the Whoop app? How can we action it? And how can we use features like the sleep coach to take care of it? And lastly, talking a little bit about sleep consistency. So sleep consistency being a huge unlock for performance. Where can we find that in the app? Where can we keep track of it? And even how can we gamify it a little bit? What are the goals and where can we keep track of that? That's going to be inside of our weekly performance assessment. So before we dive into any of those low-hanging fruit pieces, I do want to just do a quick placement and fit check. I'm curious, anyone on the call here, do we have our Whoop straps here? Are we wearing any? I see one, I see two, 3, sweet, love to see it. So just really quickly, most important aspect of, there's a hands up from Julie too. Most important aspect of applying the Whoop data is, of course, ensuring that we're collecting accurate data. So that's why placement and fit is super important. I would say 95% of the time, if we ever experience any sort of like high heart rate data or anything that seems funky, that can usually be explained by improper placement or fit. So in general, we want to make sure that the strap's located on your non-dominant arm, about an inch down from your wrist bones or 2 finger lengths. And in terms of fit, we want to make sure that it's snug enough so it's tough to slide a finger underneath there, but not so snug that it's uncomfortable or cutting off any sort of circulation or blood flow. And we definitely shouldn't see any green lights on either side of the sensor. Now, when we're talking about the hardware, so the unit itself can store up to 2 weeks of data internally. It used to be 3 days. We actually just updated this because a lot of our clients were asking for more data internally. But the reason why I share this is that means you obviously don't need to have your phone on you at all times, right? So we can go out for a lift, we can go to practice, perform in a game, still wear our strap and still collect all that data. Now, with that in mind, when you do have your phone on you, pro tip is definitely try your best to always keep that Whoop app running in the background. So what that means is don't force close it, don't swipe up. If we force close it, then the next time we open up our phone and click the Whoop app, the Whoop app's going to catch up on data, right? And that takes a little bit of time. So we want to make sure this is a seamless experience for you all. To make it as seamless as possible, keep that Whoop app running in the background at all times, because then when you fire up the app, you're going to see your metrics right away. And lastly, what I wanted to mention is everything we see on the screen here is waterproof. Units waterproof, chargers waterproof. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to encourage everyone to wear the straps as much as possible, right? Because the more you wear your strap, the more you engage in the app every single day, ultimately, the more you're going to get out of the system, right? So if we're doing the dishes, jumping in the shower, cold tub therapy, whatever it might be, unit, charger, there's no need to ever take it off. It's all waterproof. So before continuing there, talking very high level about the performance life cycle and the pillars associated with that, does anyone on the call here have any questions at all related to placement, fit, hardware, anything like that?
I may have inadvertently mentioned to some of our athletes that the charger was not waterproof in the past. So what I'll do is follow up and make sure everybody knows that it is indeed waterproof.
There you go. This is why we're having the meet, Nelly. Love it. Cool. Thanks for jumping in there. And high level Whoop performance life cycle, how are we going to help you all achieve your organizational goals and grab onto some of those low hanging fruits we were talking about? So the three pillars that take care of the Whoop performance life cycle is, of course, sleep. When we're talking about sleep, we don't want to just simply tell you about the total amount of time that you slept, right? But we actually want to provide you with insights into the quality of sleep that you achieved as well. And then after you understand the quality of sleep that you achieve, take a look at your recovery score. Think of this as your gas tank. This is how much gas you have in the tank for the day to take on all of life's demands. It's your body's ability to adapt and take on all physical, mental, and emotional stress. And with that said, day strain. That's exactly what that means. That's physical, mental, emotional strain. So we're not just talking about physical activity. So as you've all probably noticed with your Whoop strap so far, if you are checking into your app every single day, you should be able to see that this strain meter goes up over time throughout the day, right? So now the conversations on big competition or training days becomes, okay, how can I keep an eye on that strain meter and effectively manage it? How do I keep it as low as possible so that when I show up for a big lift, big practice, big game day, I have as much gas in the tank as possible for when I need it most? So these are the three pillars that we're going to use, grab onto some of those low-hanging fruits. And before I keep going into some of those metrics that I would love everyone to start focusing on, some of those features that I would love for everyone to start focusing on. Any questions at all related to any metrics that are associated with any of these pillars? Are we all feeling good about them? Cool. Getting some thumbs up, getting a nod from Nelly, so I'll keep going. So when we're talking about driving positive behavior change, and we talked about fueling, we talked about sleep habits, that's really where the Whoop journal comes into play. And this should start your Whoop day, right? So a really great way to make sure that I'm wearing my strap every single day and I'm engaging in the app every single day is the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I open up that Whoop app and I answer my Whoop journal. So curious, do we have anyone on the call here that has been leveraging the Whoop journal yet, or does this look brand new to everybody? Seeing at least one hand, seeing a nod from Nelly. Cool. Thumbs up from TJ. Awesome. So I definitely want to encourage you all to continue to use the Whoop journal. If you haven't started yet, then I want to just give some recommendations on behaviors that I would suggest starting out with. Those low-hanging fruits. That's exactly what we're talking about today. So if you haven't used it before, I want to encourage you to take your phone out right now and we can follow along. So if you actually open up your phone to the main screen, you can see here that the little pencil and paper icon, that's how you can jump into your Whoop journal. And when we're talking about tracking behaviors, so super simple, let's start out by tracking 5 behaviors. It'll take you about 10 to 15 seconds to track them every single morning. And when we're talking about those low-hanging fruits related to hydration, sleep habits, fueling, I would suggest starting out with some simple stuff like let's track our hydration. Let's really focus on that as a recovery behavior. Alcohol intake, tracking when the last time was that we consumed some alcohol, doing our best to cut that off, let's say 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Same thing with caffeine intake. I would love to focus on that, cutting it off in the afternoon with the understanding that caffeine has a half-life of around 7 hours, right? So if I have a cup of coffee at 2 p.m., it's possible it's still affecting my system at around 9 p.m. Maybe that can be contributing to some sleep difficulties that I'm experiencing, trouble falling asleep at night. Am I using my device in bed? Am I watching Netflix? Do I have a laptop screen open? That's something that we can track. When I wake up in the morning, am I doing my best to get outside, get right up out of bed within 30 minutes of waking up, experiencing the morning sky, sunshine for about 10 to 15 minutes? That goes a long way in terms of kickstarting the wake me up process so that you're feeling great for the day. Same thing when the sun goes down at night. Am I doing my best to turn off overhead lights? And maybe that's when I start using bedside table lamps. And we can also track some of our favorite recovery behaviors too, whether you love stretching, ice bath, sauna, foam rolling, whatever it might be. I would suggest starting out with these low-hanging fruits here. Pick about 5 of them. And the real benefit of tracking that stuff every single day is, of course, the visual representations and charts that we get in our monthly performance assessment. So for student athletes on the call right now, you mentioned you've been using the Whoop journal. Have you actually been taking a look at your monthly performance assessments as well? Have you seen charts like this before, or is this the first time you're seeing them? Getting a thumbs up from Alexander. Cool. So if you fill out your journal every single day, we should get really excited for the first day of every single month, because we're going to get a notification through the app. If we click on the coaching tab, so that's the little clipboard icon, second from the left on the bottom, first day of every single month, we get a monthly performance assessment. And if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to see these visual representations letting us know, okay, all these different behaviors that we're tracking, what's been seen to lead to increased levels of recovery, so I can take action towards those ahead of big training, game, or competition days, and what's been seen to do the opposite, so I can actually start to move away from those and ultimately drive that positive behavior change. So here's a couple from one of my performance assessments a little while back. Negative lifestyle behavior that I track, and I mentioned that would be helpful to track on the previous slide, is alcohol intake. To no one's surprise, that's been seen to have a significant negative impact on my system. So upwards of minus 17% on my recovery score. Whereas when we take a look at a positive lifestyle behavior change that I'm looking to adopt into my life more, on nights where I've been seen to wear my blue light blocking glasses, that's been seen to increase my recovery upwards of 5%. So we can track these different behaviors, start of every month. We can actually see these representations. This is exactly what is working for me. This is what isn't working for me. And then we can make those winning tweaks. And then last value out of filling out that Whoop journal every single day is on each of your pillar pages. So your sleep page, your recovery page, your strain page. You might have all noticed that we have these little chat boxes here that talk to us every single day. So this is what we call the voice of Whoop. And the voice of Whoop takes your Whoop journal answers into account. Right. So similar to what I said, the more you wear your strap, the more you're going to get out of the system. It's also the same thing for the more you engage in the app as well. So if we open it up every single morning, fill out our journal, these little recommendations are going to become more personal, meaningful, and insightful to you as well. So before we keep rolling into sleep, any questions at all about that, the Whoop journal, any of those monthly performance assessments or charts we just looked at? And for those of you that have been using your Whoop journal and maybe haven't looked at your monthly performance assessment, fire up your phone, click on that little coaching tab, and I encourage you to click into the monthly performance assessment, and you might see some that you would have had in the past that you just haven't seen yet.
I think a great thing you just said there that I want to emphasize is the more you engage with it, the more it engages back with you. And I think that's been very helpful for me. Full disclosure, I think I probably have too many things on my journal. So I like what you said about starting small with a small number and then adding over time. I probably need to scale that back, but I thought that was great points.
Love it. Great input. Awesome. We will keep rolling now. So we filled out our Whoop journal. We get excited at the start of every single month to take a look at those reports so we can make those winning tweaks. And after we fill out that journal, the next thing we're going to pop over to is the sleep page, right? And sleep sufficiency, important to understand. So first metric that's important to understand about sleep sufficiency is, of course, your sleep performance score and your sleep need every single night. So that's important to understand. How is my sleep need calculated? So I want to encourage everyone to click into this green sleep needed button. And when you do that, you're going to get a breakdown letting you know exactly how your sleep need is calculated every single night. So in general, the more strain that you put on your body, the more sleep that you're going to need. But the metric that I really want to focus on today is sleep debt. And what this is this is sleep that you didn't successfully achieve on previous nights that's added to your coming night's sleep. So we fill out our Whoop journals, we click on our green sleep need button, and then we take a look at what our sleep debt is looking like for that day. And to give a couple real life use cases of why it's important to keep that sleep debt number in check. On the left here, Whoop was a part of a study with some of the best consultants in the world. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to understand what the relationship was between sleep and executive function or mental control in the workplace. And what was found was that for every 45 minutes of sleep debt that was accumulated, those individuals saw a 5 to 10% decrease in mental control the following day. And on the right here, here's just a quick example letting everyone know that it's been proven that increased sleep deprivation has been directly linked with potential increase in sport-related injuries. So if we take a look at that number and we see it accumulating over time, not only are we going to be potentially more prone to getting injured in our sport, but it's also going to affect our mental control as well, right? Our split-second decision-making. And we're all playing elite level quick sports. So it's not just about the physical side as well, right? It's about making these quick split-second decisions and being as sharp as we can be and really setting ourselves up for success. So in light of that, the tips I would love to share for everyone, when we're talking about that sleep performance score, this is a really lofty goal, aiming for 90%. And whenever I'm communicating all of these goals to everybody, I want to make it clear, I'm not asking for perfection, right? I know we're not going to get to 90% right away, but we're looking for progress. So maybe if on average you're getting, let's say, between a 75 to an 80% sleep performance score, let's just do our best. Maybe next month we get that up to 82%. The following month we get that to 84. So this is the high level goal that we're setting for you all, just because you're elite level student athletes, meaning you need more sleep than the average human being. And back to that sleep debt metric, right? We fill out our Whoop journal, click on the green sleep need button. We see where our sleep debt is at for the day. And the goal that we want to target is we want to try our best to keep that rolling sleep debt value beneath 30 minutes. Again, that's a really lofty goal. It's possible that people on this call, I want to encourage you to follow. Click in there, see where your sleep debt's at for this week. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe it's 45 minutes, maybe it's 50 minutes, maybe it's 60 minutes. That's all right. But we can't manage what we don't measure. So if we don't know what it's at, then we can't action it. So we can see where it's at. And if we start to see it adding up over time, then we can actually directly combat that sleep debt metric by having a nap, right? So if I wake up in the morning and I maybe see that my sleep debt is at 50 minutes, then I can actually plan out my day to make sure that I can mix in, let's say, a 20 to 30 minute power nap or even a 90-minute full sleep cycle nap. And another great feature to leverage to really do your best to keep your sleep debt in check is leveraging the sleep coach feature. So that's what this looks like on the screen here, the sleep coach. Curious, has anyone used this sleep coach feature here on the call, or is this a brand new screen to everybody? Does this look familiar to anyone? Alexander's really dialed in. A few more thumbs up. Awesome. So if you haven't used the sleep coach feature, and even for those of you that have used it, I want to encourage you to click into it right now. Click that little clipboard tab, second from the left on the bottom, and open the sleep coach. And we want to make sure that this goal here is set to peak. So what that's going to do is, based on what time you set that you want to wake up in the morning, the Whoop system will actually notify you every single night, letting you know what time you should start going to bed so that you can wake up the best version of yourself in the morning. And if you do your best to listen to these recommendations within the sleep coach, your sleep debt should actually take care of itself. So that's a really great feature to use. And that's something that we can do to help you out to really keep that sleep debt value in check here. So again, we want to do our best to keep that beneath 30 minutes. Any last questions related to sleep sufficiency, sleep debt, sleep coach, or anything like that before we start talking about sleep consistency? Awesome. We will keep rolling. So sleep consistency, I would say easily the biggest unlock for performance. I think it should be talked about way more. The best way I can explain this is that the better job that we do in terms of lining up our wake times and sleep times every single day, then the more our body knows what to expect, right? We don't want to keep our body guessing If this chart here showing all of our wake times and sleep times every single day, if it's all out of whack and all over the place, then our body has no idea what to expect and it has no idea when to input the process that it needs so that you can be the best version of yourself, right? So the more consistent we are with our wake and sleep times every single day, the more we know what to expect, and therefore the more efficient and effective our body is going to be at kickstarting the wake me up process in the morning, allowing you to take on all of the demands for your day, and then ultimately at nighttime, very quickly and efficiently going to sleep and quickly and efficiently getting to these deeper, more restorative states of sleep. So we don't want to keep our body guessing, let it know what to expect. And again, not looking for perfection here. I know that some of us have early morning practices every now and again, but if we're just aware that these types of charts exist within Whoop, we can keep an eye on them and do our best to line them up better than we are today. So a couple of real life use cases to share related to sleep consistency. So on the left here, we have Whoop data that suggests that sleep consistency can explain up to a 36-minute difference in REM sleep every single night. So that mentally restorative state of sleep, and up to a 15-minute difference in slow wave sleep every single night, or physically restorative state of sleep. And on the right here, Harvard was a part of a study where they wanted to try to understand what the relationship was between sleep regularity index or sleep consistency and academic performance. And what was found was that for every increase in 10% in sleep consistency, this was associated with an average increase of 0.1 in grade point average. So this is when we're starting to open up the conversation to the entire student athlete experience, right? If we do a better job at just doing our best to better line up our sleep and wake times every single day, without even achieving any more sleep at all, you can see here that we can actually achieve upwards of around an hour more restorative sleep every single night. And same thing here, without achieving any more sleep at all, or even doing any more studying. We'll see that this will actually start to play into our academic performance as well. And when we're talking about an increase of 0.1 in grade point average on a scale of 4.0, that's extremely impactful. So something to be mindful of. Now, when we're talking about sleep consistency tips, number one, managing light exposure, and hopefully we're starting to pick up on a pattern here. All of these on the list here are related to those low-hanging fruit behaviors that I'm encouraging everyone to track in their journals, right? So am I getting out of bed as soon as I wake up, going outside and experiencing that morning sun? When the sun goes down, am I staying away from artificial lights? Something that I mentioned earlier that really works for me because I saw it in my monthly performance assessment, blue light blocking glasses. That's something that we can use. Am I using my screen in bed, right? So these are all things that we can start doing to better manage our light exposure to hopefully help deal with some sleep difficulties that we might be experiencing, making us more efficient, more effective. Avoiding caffeine in the afternoon, we talked about that. That's something we can track in our Whoop journal as well. Setting a pre-bed routine, letting your body know what to expect, putting your phone screen away, your laptop screen away, doing something that's relaxing to you. For me, that's listening to music. I know a lot of people that love reading books. I know a lot of people that love listening to a sleep app. So it's really whatever works for you. This is your 30 minutes to an hour to wind down at the end of the day. Forget about everything else. And lastly, we talked about listening to your sleep coach. That'll help you stay on top of your sleep debt. And it'll also help you better line up your sleep and wake times every single day. And on the right here, here's a clip from one of my weekly performance assessments. So similar to if we fill out a journal every single day, we'll get a notification at the start of every month with our monthly assessments. Every single Monday, we should get a notification here with our weekly assessments. So if no one has seen any of their weekly assessments yet, I want to encourage you to click into this button right now, little clipboard here, click into your weekly performance assessment. And I want everyone to get excited to take a look at this chart at the bottom every single week. We scroll to the very bottom and we're going to see this bedtime and wake time chart. So the lofty goal that we've set for everybody, so we want to do our best to get this bedtime and wake time variability number down to around 30 minutes. And similar to all these other things I'm saying related to goals, right? We're not looking for perfection. It's not going to happen today. We're just simply looking at progress. So if we take a look at my chart here, we can see here that last week I had an hour and 8 minutes, but this week I did a great job trimming that down to 44 minutes. And same thing with wake time. I was at an hour 30, trimmed it down to 112. So we can now gamify it, have some fun, and just see how we did compared to last week to continue to move the needle in the right direction. So any last questions at all related to sleep consistency? I'm curious if Alexander's seen the weekly performance assessment too, because he's been giving thumbs ups for everything else. Do I get one? There it is. I got one last one. Amazing. And then just in terms of like general troubleshoots or questions team, of course, Nelly is the man for that sort of thing. If he can't answer them right away, he's been tossing my number around and I'll do my best to set you up for success. But just want to let everyone know that everyone on this call has access to our membership services team feature as well. So in the top right corner, you'll see a little chat bubble. So any sort of connectivity issues, maybe problems you're experiencing with the app, or even if you're just curious and want to learn more, don't be shy, give it a click, ask away, and our membership services team will help to set you up for success as well. And here's my last action items page. So I know I've been talking a lot. I know it's late. So if there's a time to pay attention for the next meeting, or sorry, for the next minute or so, it's this slide. If we're taking one thing away from this meeting, it's this slide. So I have top 3 action items in the top right corner here. Really, it should be 4. So action item number 1, let's wear our strap. That's number 1. Wear it every single day. Like Nelly mentioned, the more we engage in the app, the more beneficial all the features are going to become for you. Action item number 2, let's try our best to make a daily habit of starting your Whoop day, leveraging your Whoop journal. And these are those behaviors that I recommend everyone start out tracking. Let's start super simple. Maybe we're only tracking 5 to start out. Nelly, you mentioned that you might have way more than that, and you can work towards trimming that down a little bit too. Action item number 3, daily habit. After we fill out our Whoop journal, let's click on this green sleep need button and check out where our sleep debt is at. Plan out our day. If we see it start to accumulate a lot higher than 30 minutes, that's where we can plan out our day accordingly to make sure that we mix in a nap so we can keep that sleep debt value in check. And then lastly, let's focus on sleep consistency. Listen to our sleep coach every single Monday. Click into the coaching tab, click into our weekly performance assessment, get excited to scroll to the bottom and see how we did compared to last week. And again, we want to get these bedtime and wake time variability numbers down as close as possible to plus or minus 30 minutes. So Nelly, that's all I got for you today. I'm hoping that was helpful. Similar to what you mentioned about the whole low-hanging fruit piece. That's kind of what I was going for today. Let's start simple. Here are some areas of the app that I really want to encourage everyone to check out every single day.
Yep, definitely. No, this was perfect. This is exactly what we were kind of thinking. Is now what we'd like to do too is you're always available and a huge help for us. But if anybody has any questions, obviously now we can stick around, or after, shoot me an email and we can get it right to Alec, and then we can get those questions answered. So I'll give it just a second. If anybody has any comments or questions or needs that we can address now.
Hey, Alec, thank you for hopping on. The Whoop's been awesome. I give it a lot of credit for helping me recover from multiple surgeries and return to my sport, which I think's been the Whoop's been very helpful for that. One question I have is, over the last few days, I've noticed that my recovery has just been going kind of worse and worse. And I've listened to a few of the Whoop podcasts just like here now and then. And that they mentioned that it might be because like you're getting sick or something, your body's getting run down. Do you have any advice? Because I feel great and I feel like I'm getting a ton of good sleep, but my recovery just won't go up into the green. So I was wondering if you have any advice for that.
Yeah, really great question, TJ. And thank you for sharing that anecdote about surgeries and return to play. That's why I do this job. And that's why I love talking to you guys. So that's awesome to hear. Yes, it is possible. You know, if you are, especially related to a metric that I like to really keep an eye on, that might be a telling tale of if I might be about to getting sick is my respiratory rate. So TJ, you mentioned that your recovery is going down and down, but you're feeling great. How down is that recovery? Are we talking like 3 days in a row in the red? And maybe have you checked out that respiratory rate, or are we just simply saying that, oh, because I'm in the red, I feel like I'm going in a wrong direction? Can you help to paint a little bit of a bigger picture for me?
But I'm usually never in the yellow. I'm usually in the green.
Is that cutting out for you too, Nelly?
It is. TJ, you may have a poor connection.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry. Yeah, no, my respiratory rate's been the same. I think, and my sleep quality has been the same. I've noticed I've been getting a lot more of REM and deep sleep, but that I think maybe the HRV metric that weighs heavily
Mhm.
on it. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's just because we're practicing a lot harder. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So just to address something you just said there too, if you do see your restorative sleep going up, then that is a telling tale that, there are more stresses coming into your life and your body's saying, hey, I need to recover more. So it's good you're keeping an eye on that. I did want to ask one more question, TJ. I think you mentioned you're usually in the green, but you've been experiencing yellow. So is that what you were describing? You're now in the yellow more often than usual? Am I hearing that right?
yeah, I'm usually like high yellows or green, but it's been going like from 60, 50, 40 type of thing this for the last few days.
Okay,
So yeah, I
awesome. Thank
I
thank
don't
you for
think
picking
it's
up on
all
that.
about me, but
No, cool. No, I mean that's my fault for asking more questions, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding you appropriately. So
no,
I think the biggest message I want to say here is that even though the recovery scores look like a traffic light, like green, yellow, red, that doesn't mean that yellow means slow down or yellow is a bad thing. Yellow is actually a great thing. Yellow represents your baseline, and being elite level athletes, you should be expecting to spend the majority of your time in the yellow. Yellow is your baseline, right? Like, especially if you said, hey, we're starting to ramp up practices more and more. If you're able to manage and consistently stay in the yellow, that's awesome. What green means is green means go for it, right? Green means you're primed to take on peak strain. And a green day is when you can overreach a little bit so that you can experience gains in the long run, right? So I think that's maybe the disconnect there is if you're ramping things up, we're into a new year here and you're able to manage and stay in the yellow, that's fine. That's great. Yellow is you trending as you. And what you want to do is just really dial in and focus on that app. And you want to do your best to set yourself up for success on a big game day, right? So we want to make sure that that one green day or 3 green days that we have per week is on that game day, right? Maybe we're in the higher level yellow or we're wake up in the green when we have a game day, because then we're going to more than likely be more effective on the field or when we're performing. Does that help to explain things a little more, TJ?
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we just started our season a couple weeks ago, and so
You
that
got
is
it. Back
exactly
back from the holidays, season starting up again. And
yeah,
if you're cruising in the yellow, man, that's all good. That's you trending as you.
sweet. All right, thank you for your help.
Yeah, man, great question.
TJ, what sport are you? I want to make sure I can follow up and send this recording to you.
Sure. Men's lacrosse.
Got you. Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it, Nelly.
Does anyone else have any questions? Alex, you got a hand?
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Alec. I really appreciate it. Big fan of Whoop. I've been using it for a while, even before I got to Penn State. You talked a lot about sleep consistency, and I've kind of learned that just from using Whoop for a while. I'm on the football team, and we just started what we call our winter workouts, which is basically like we're in our indoor at 5:30 in the morning, which means I have to get up at 4:30 twice a week. And like, obviously I don't really want to get up at 4:30 any other day of the week if I don't have to. So like on the nights, like for example, today I woke up around 9 and tomorrow I have to wake up 4.5 hours earlier, 5.5 hours earlier. Do you have any like suggestions for like minimizing the negative effect on my recovery when my sleep consistency is kind of like in a way forced to be that drastic?
Yeah, really good question. And always great talking to a loyal Whoop member. So thanks for jumping in here. No, that's a really good question. I think a theme that I was sharing throughout that entire presentation is the entire idea of, sometimes there are some things that are outside of our control. So yeah, in a perfect world, we all wake up at the exact same second every single day, and we all fall asleep at the exact same second every day. But that's not reality, right? So that's where we can now manage this sort of thing. And we, again, just want to make progress, right? We don't want to be perfect. Nothing's perfect. So, considering the fact you mentioned, is it 2 days a week that we have really early mornings? We have to get up around 4:30. Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, it's Tuesday and Thursday.
Cool. So if that's the case, that's where, since we are measuring these other days, to start out, I would say just make sure we're really keeping an eye on those charts. So those sleep and wake times every single day. I would make sure that we're really listening to our sleep coach, especially on those off days when we might need to catch up on some sleep. Keep an eye on that sleep debt value, right? Because if I'm going to bed at a similar time, it's okay to actually shift your sleep time a little bit too. We don't want to shift it too much, but if I need to wake up at 4:30 on a day compared to usually I'm waking up at 6:30, then maybe I go to bed 30 minutes earlier, right? So that can help with some of the sleep debt. And then on those days, maybe those are the days that I make sure I have a nap as well to account for some of that sleep debt. So maybe not the answer you were looking for, but my tip would be, if that's happening, that's where we should make sure that we are really dialed into those features. So on the 5 out of 7 days out of the week, I'm going to try extra hard to be that much more consistent. On the 2 days where I do need to wake up at 4:30, those are the days that I'm going to make sure that I plan my day out and have a nap to account for the additional sleep debt that I might have created. Hopefully that addresses that question a little bit. And what I would even mention too, is I know Nelly's had some conversations with some of you about the team dashboard feature, as some of you are providing consent to have some of that information rolled up in there. So, that's even in Nelly and his team's hand too, right? Like if we can see that, maybe if we shift practice times a little bit or something like that, we can actually get more out of our programs. These are conversations that we can potentially have at some point down the future. But in terms of what you can control, you have all those metrics inside your app. So what I'd say is life isn't perfect. So on those days where we can be more perfect, really dial into those metrics.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, so I'm gonna share screen one more time, and what I'll do, two things here. Whoop, apologize. And it's gonna give me a glitch. Sure, there we go. I'll just talk through it. So two things is if anybody wants additional content, we try to produce content weekly. And if you go on Instagram or if you go to Twitter on both of our accounts, PSU_AHPS, standing for Applied Health Performance Science, we post a ton of educational content. I'll follow that with when I send the email out with this recording, I'll make sure I include that link. Also is our YouTube account. So our YouTube account, we post a ton of videos. They're not like really highly produced videos. It's just quick on a grease board. Here's an idea. Here's a screen share idea, just to get some information out. But I'll share that with you guys. And I'll also throw in my cell phone and email. You'll have that. So if you have any questions, even after we get out of the call, just shoot it over and we'll make sure we get it like that. Our next check-in, our next Performance Academy, we're going to go for 2 weeks, February 22nd. We'll be back same time, 7:30. If anybody's interested, we're going to spend the evening talking about sleep. Just like this, we're going to dig into it even more, and we're going to talk about a couple things. It will not necessarily be a guest speaker. It'll just be some people from our staff on the performance crew here at Penn State. But if you will help share the word, anybody on your team or friends that are athletes at Penn State, just kind of share the word, and we want to build a community. But I really appreciate everybody spending the evening with us. And if there's any questions that arise, just reach out to us anytime. So Alec, thanks a lot for your time as well, man. You're a huge help for us throughout the past semester and now, and we appreciate everything.
Appreciate you too, Nelly.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right. Hope everybody has a great week and finishes the week strong. Thanks, everybody.
Steve.
Thank
Thank you.